On this episode of Content Sessions, we're talking with Glen Burgess about Body Mechanix. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about the business and who you are.
Certainly for myself, I've been a personal trainer for about 13 years. Late bloomer, I suppose, kind of post-university, I changed careers. I lived in Toronto actually for a time, and I got into personal training and fitness, I want to say around roughly between 2006, 2008. Was kind of when I found, I've always been active, but just in terms of passion for fitness, where I wanted to help other people in personal training. And even say since about 2010, I've lived in Brampton, and I've been a personal trainer ever since. I know with personal training, the business itself, you have a chance where like you have to earn continuing education credits and CECs just to expand your knowledge base. And even one of my mentors that I had was said you're earning or learning. So even in points then where you weren't necessarily making a lot of money, then you're investing certainly in your future. So for myself, I pride myself on the certifications that I took to help not only myself, I suppose, with my knowledge base, but then help my clients even that much stronger with program design, with proper form and technique of exercises, with structural balance. I suppose one of my new loves in terms of fitness in general is, I certainly am a love of TRX and suspension training because it's a tool that can be used for a wide variety of things. And I also became a stretch therapist, partially because of injuries that affected me in my past, as well as, how I knew that could help clients in the future.
Absolutely.
So I do that right now, and top of, I guess, I have a couple of dreams to my business. So I've been a solopreneur, you can say, for about 3 years now, and the difference been in personal training, group fitness, stretch therapy. I also am a fitness educator. So on the flip side, I work with canfitpro to certify personal trainers through their personal training course, and also courses ranging from Joe Arco's advanced training systems programs, trigger point performance for foam rolling, and CPR and first aid. So it's kind of a whack of stuff now that I think about it.
Yeah, it usually nets out to that. It's funny because I've had, 35 plus or so conversations. It's really got me thinking about like, how do I explain what I do? Because yeah, I mean, you could go down, well, we also do this and I'm involved in that. And I think, in the solopreneur
Yeah,
world,
I could talk about stretch therapy for hours, but
yeah, and I think in the solopreneur world, you kind of just end up doing that, right? You're like, I got to learn about this. I got to learn about that. This adds to the package that I can offer. This adds to the benefit the existing clients I have, and then all of a sudden you've got 5 or 6 different things that you're involved in. And so, right now, do you run it out of a home gym? Do you go to people? Do you rent space when you do your training? How do you operate it?
I was mobile for a couple years there. I would say I can still be mobile, so just kind of depending on the timing, but I'm renting space out of Brampton. So a couple spaces that I rent, either say then for personal training small group, or especially then for stretch therapy. Most of the courses are certainly available to arrange a course at a facility. So if there's a fitness company that wants to host a course, then that's certainly available. Or a lot of mine tend to be done through out of like a Good Life Fitness, in terms of the relationship with canfitpro. So just depending on, I guess, the course and the need.
Got it. And with that relationship with CanFit, do they kind of just reach out to you and say, "Hey, we need you for these couple of things," or can you almost position them and sell them on your own behalf, but as long as they're their brand? How does that work with those types of programs?
Ev- well, everything's booked through canfitpro. So let's say if someone had decided to say, "Hey, I want to create a new career or a side hustle, that I want to become a personal trainer," I mean, certainly still go through the online registration process. For me as a pro trainer, it is, I guess, a combination of, I still kind of set course dates just as to what I see would be a good fit, of kind of time and place. So that's already kind of prearranged. I'm actually just in process now of basically scheduling out my whole next year. So 2020 will be basically already preset in terms of the dates and times that I'm going to have courses scheduled, and CPR courses as well. So those are kind of done in advance, and then it'd just be a matter of marketing and promotion when the time comes, say about a month prior or so, to just kind of help assist in getting the word out in terms of what I'm doing in the area.
Got it. Makes a ton of sense. And do you find with the things that you teach that you get a lot of repeat stuff? So I came for this and now I'm going to come for this next thing because they're doing, is that part of the CE element is like you can kind of get people in for one thing and then bring them back for a couple different.
It's certainly possible. I mean, I know too, yeah, for myself, for those that take the personal training course, they've enjoyed themselves enough that that they are like what I'm doing. And I think the bonus too, because they want to earn the CECs, that I do have other CEC courses that I can teach in fitness education that are available. So it certainly helps them out to reconnect and just making sure that I can help them. I like to be a person, as I said, like no matter who comes, or even say if someone I see for their practical exam just to finish up if I have never met them before, might even be a difference of how can I help you with your fitness journey, right? So if I can be a fitness resource for people, I'm happy to help. And just through experience from even other mentors or other people that I've taken coaching under, if people say, hey, I'm looking for information on this, who would you recommend? At least I can kind of say, well, you know, I know this person who specializes in kettlebells, or I know this person who specializes in Olympic lifting, that there's always a way that I can, even if it's not, you know, my personal drive or something that I don't have, you know, specific education towards, I could always kind of point someone in the direction of the names that are kind of, you know, bigger in the fitness industry.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And so, if you were to kind of pick, and maybe the answer is both, but if you were to pick an avenue, would you say being a trainer and a stretch coach, like, is that where most of your passion is, or is it in the teaching? Do you have a side that kind of hits you a bit harder?
It's such a great question, but I honestly I enjoy them both, and I think that's where my business model. I look at kind of what I've been doing right now, and you know, this time of year especially, you're always kind of reassessing. You know, so how did I do this year, and what could I do better or do differently in terms of preparation for the next year, in terms of my own personal growth versus you know just where the fitness trends are heading. And I don't know, it's really hard to choose. Um, I love stretch therapy, and I think it's also because there's really not a lot of us out there that is still quite a unique specialty, where I find that then some of those skills that do set me apart from the trainers. That's one thing I kind of mentioned in my course is differentiation. Like what makes you different from the personal trainers that are out there? If it's a skill set, if it's even your personality, if it's you know just down to what you offer that helps build value, which is certainly really important. And as I said, like just when it comes to courses, um, I love to see other people grow. I love to see and just know that I was part of that process, that I could help take them from, you know, point A and say, this is where you can go. So you let me know, like, you know, where your dreams, your aspirations are, and how can I help, you know, make that a reality for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a big part. So for us, we do a lot of training. Like we'll go in house and help people create their own Google ads or Facebook ads or social. And it's not so much for me the recurring I want to be running the ads. I like when you get that aha moment of like, oh, I can take control of the marketing of my business forever. It's like, yes. So I'm on the same boat. We're on the same page with that in a big way. And I've structured my entire business around it now. So makes sense.
Okay.
And so where do you see it going? I mean, obviously there's always a path for people requiring education. There's always people needing to be trained. Do you have kind of a goal or vision for the business in the next year or couple of years?
For my business itself,
Mhm.
I know too, for about, I'd say probably since about 2014, I wanted to open my own studio space. Uh, I'm still looking. Haven't quite found. I was close this year to having kind of, I'd like that one location where I could do everything out of. If it
Yeah.
just meant a combination of a functional fitness center where I could do the one-on-one, the group training, fitness education, and literally have everything combined in one deal for me. Um, I don't really enjoy driving as much as I thought I would, but it's not terrible. I'll do it anyway. Like if I really have to, it's you know
Mhm.
winter weather that sometimes kind of slows me down a bit. But no, I would. If I could have everything in one spot, I think it's that toss up between then making myself you know certainly available for clients or for students in terms of going to them versus if people could come to me, then I feel like I could help more people.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. And I
So
know
so trying to kind of close that gap.
yeah, and I know for me like my trainer here in Toronto when we when he's it's a very small like studio space, but when when other trainers want to rent the space out, like it's also making him money while he's in it, having control over the space. So I know he likes that part about it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I said you find a good core group of people, like I said for myself, to find other trainers that have similar certifications to myself or the same kind of philosophies, the same training methods. If we're kind of under the same, belief systems of kind of how things kind of work and, making sure ultimately you're taking care of your clients, it's just great to have that ability to collaborate with other health and fitness professionals, where then you can kind of share space and everyone gets along. And I know it's tricky with there's either usually one business owner and then
Mhm.
kind of others, or if it's any kind of partnership relationship, or at least you said you're on the same page, at least that way you can share space and have things kind of work out, because really, I said, we're all kind of doing what we love for the same reasons.
Yep. Makes total sense. One thing that occurs to me, especially if you're kind of motivated by having your own space, so you've got people that come in and do either the certification or the CE credits with you. Um, one idea for you is, especially when you have the space, because that's a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people don't have space. That's just the truth about that industry, your industry. But I think if you were to have a thing where like you build your email list of all these people that have come in and done this and that with you, you could almost partner with trainers in a way that have certifications that you don't have, and say, hey, I've got 100 trainers that have done business with me. If I were to sell something that you certify, and then you would get a cut off the top end of that. It might be a great business model for you, where you're connecting trainers, you're filling their class, you're facilitating the space, but then you become the hub of everyone's coming through you to do training stuff. I don't know if that strikes you as something that's interesting.
That's certainly a possibility. Yeah, I mean, I know for me, like, our relationship, let's say, for example, for CanFitPro and Good Life, because they are kind of sister companies, so to speak, even when it comes to rent, then have what they call business rewards members. So any business rewards members that are of CanFit Pro, I know that they pay a fee to kind of be part of that membership, but
Mhm.
essentially what they do is even say one person per course would actually get a free spot, which is almost the same price as what they would have paid to probably be part of the BRM. And there's other kind of discounts and say promotional events and things that are available. So I know between Good Life and Campit Pro, they create that relationship. For the other companies I work for, I mean, it's one of those things certainly where we try to do the same thing. It's do you actually want rent, then say per hour we're there, versus if there is, if we can basically offer a free spot for, X amount of people, then that either on your team, if it's at a host facility, as just, to say thank you for certain of hosting the space, and yeah, helping each other as fitness professionals grow in other areas of education they're looking for.
Right. Would there be any conflict if you were to say, so people that have come through you, you now have their email and you're sending communications to them via, it could be about different things, but at the end of it could be like, hey, I'm also going to host this other certification. Do those extracurriculars, do they have to go through CanFit, or can you take control of that yourself?
They don't have to go can fit necessarily, but I think still it's just when you're kind of establishing connections and when I'm kind of teaching my courses, I do mention to people, I said, well, hey, like, this isn't, all that I do. I certainly do other things as well. So if it is of interest, I think what's really important is that for me, I need to CASA laws, right? So I still need to get permission to email that person and say, hey, if you want to know, just even say strictly about Campit Pro stuff with regards to certification, then that's totally fine. If they're open to then, further communication, and most people are pretty accepting of it, that at least that way I get the okay first and then say add them onto my database for other promotional events. If it's even again too, if they need their CPR before, let's say they do their practical portion of the exam, that's one piece. And if they need other courses then ongoing, that I said I'm just happy to again be a resource, so that really it's at any point you can send me an email and say, hey Glenn, I need help on this. Then I can say, okay, well, if I don't have something happening now, I can say, so and so or another person is kind of doing this in this area, and I've kind of heard about this. And the internet's phenomenal, right? So nowadays where you just have a chance to kind of Google or research any topic, and hopefully kind of find what you're looking for that way.
Yeah. And are you actively kind of working? Are you actively growing an email list? Like, are you sending any kind of like a monthly this and that? Are you sending anything out to people that you have those communications with, or is it just kind of one-on-one right now?
I am sending stuff out. Currently, right now, I'm having a few little bugs with the current email provider that I'm using, so I'm actually trying to fix that. And it's not the best time of year for that to happen, considering Black Friday stuff or holiday promotion.
Big time.
But no, I do have. I mean, yeah, my out of my email list, I would say it's a decent size, but some people are getting my emails and some people aren't. And I wouldn't say that I'm a super tech savvy person. So
Mm.
for me, even arranging this call was a technical challenge. In some ways, I was like, do I have a headset with a microphone? But no, I ended up. I was like, I do have this and it works. But yes, so yeah, just tech wise, I guess trying to keep up with the trend because I feel like I was stuck in the middle between the surge of the iPad versus even for programs I still kind of prefer pen and paper.
Yep, that's fair.
It's a
But
little
yeah, I
old
mean,
school.
a little old school. I'm guessing your issues are with Mailchimp because they just seem to be a nightmare all the time. But you don't have to say.
It's actually not.
Oh, really?
No, no, it's not that one in
Uh,
particular, but no,
mm,
no, I've got a couple of things that, but as I said, just bugs. I've got I think for me, as I said, business wise for myself now, I've got kind of a to-do list that I'm building. So even then, when my clients are away for the holidays, I've got tasks that I know that I'm going to be kind of working on to just clean some stuff up and just hopefully fix tech issues and just get everything working better.
Yeah, it's a great time of the year for that. The last couple of weeks, for sure. But yeah, I
Yeah.
do. I mean, I do think that you're on a really good track with that. Even now with a couple of pretty much anyone that we work with that's creating content on social, I'm slowly saying, hey, this is fine, but start moving people over to an email list. Get the opt-in, get them to say yes, because all of a sudden every time you post on Instagram, only a third of the people see it. And it used to be 70%. And you're like, oh boy, like it just goes away. But email, when you're not having these bugs that you're having, is really, really effective. And I think, sending that monthly reminder saying, hey, I'm going to co-host this thing, or I've got this CE thing. Don't run out of time to get your credits in. I think you could create some really good repeat business, whether it's you teaching or facilitating it with other instructors who maybe can't fill a classroom themselves, but they've got certification saying, hey, I've got an email list that's very good. If I could fill 10 people for you, take 20%, right? So I think that's a really great way to leverage your email list while you're still providing real value to people because they need that thing anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I would say too, like, I mean, I know that some people have kind of ran into like the past week, even just a couple people had messaged me and said, oh, like I have someone that needs CPR like by November 30th. And they're messaging me, it's like November 25th. I'm like, why did you wait 5 days before CPR expires? That was my kind of first question. But my other thought is like, we need to in this business be proactive. So for myself, like I still have to recert my CPR every year. So I've actually already registered for my course in February, just knowing that that day I have to take it because as a, it's a job requirement for us. So just making sure that you keep stuff current so that it doesn't actually stop you from working.
Yep.
Because some fitness facilities, if you don't have your CPR, they'll actually say you can't train on the floor or you can't teach your class. So it's just that small thing that seem inconvenient, but it's part of the job. So it's just one of those things that'd be nice to kind of just make sure you just get it done.
Yeah. It'd be cool if I'm sure there is something, but like an app for personal trainers that they can put the date that they did all their CE stuff in, and then it like gives them like a 60-day, a ping 60-day, and they can keep all the certifications in the app. That'd be a fun little app.
canfitpro does have that.
Oh, there you
I
go.
don't know, again, app wise, but so canfitpro interactive is kind of a platform that so where all trainers then their certifications can be kind of uploaded into that space, and then even reminders sent, like so if someone hasn't finished their exam before say certification, then reminders, it's like 90-day, 60-day, 30-day, until like they would expire. Or the same for CPR, say, hey, just so certification's coming up for expiry. But then people go, oh crap, and they're like, I should have done this. The difference though too is like you check on your card, you kind of know when your expiry date is, and you kind of say to yourself, okay, so I need to sign up for a CPR course that date, just to, keep stuff fresh.
Get it done. So how else? So I mean, obviously a lot of different things going on. It sounds like sounds like you've got a really good base and you're really busy. So how do you market yourself now? How do you, other than obviously you get certain people in through CanFit, and that's a great entry point for you because then you've got that relationship built. But how else are you marketing yourself now?
A lot of my stuff I know too, like if any other solopreneurs that are listening to this, you probably feel the same. 20 pairs of the time. Like I literally am working by myself. There's no other team here. So when I'm training a client, my phone's on silent. So it's like I check messages periodically. When I'm doing social media, it's trying to plan in advance of, okay, what does my posting schedule kind of look like? And even that, I know, like myself, what can I do better? We're trying to make sure that my marketing approach and that my timing is there, so that I have a good thread kind of leading into an event, if it's happening, because every month there's something going on. So it's either a CPR course one month, or it could be a trigger point course the next month, or canfitpro if it was certification stuff. Otherwise, like say personally, I mean, I don't actually do a lot of social media online presence for things like stretch therapy, which I know a lot of people do.
Hmm.
I'd love to get more into that. It's the timing, it's setting up a camera, it's getting client permission. Is super important. But I typically just tend to just focus on what my client needs, and then not necessarily videotape. Obviously what's going on, or just making sure things are good. But yeah, I would say on the whole, um, there's so many platforms between the social media, Instagram, your Facebook, your even LinkedIn, is kind of where we met. But out of those platforms of I'm trying to actually think of what your question was again, and hopefully I'm answering it. But the difference of, I know the algorithms, I'm not understanding really what the algorithms mean,
You're not.
in terms of knowing what I'm posting, who's seeing it. And sometimes you just feel like you're throwing stuff up there, and it's just like you're shooting in the dark, because you just really have no idea who you're attracting. But I guess hoping to build a presence enough that you just kind of know that it's reaching someone. And I know for now, like I guess I'm even paying a company to help me with my SEO optimization. So for myself, I know I'm supposed to be getting higher in like a top 10 list, in terms of like if someone does search stretch therapy or TRX in the Brampton area, at least say roughly in a 2 kilometer radius where I work, that's kind of getting more exposure. But yeah, it's tricky to know, how many months do I do that before I decide, is this working or is it not working,
Yeah.
in terms of return on investment, right?
Hmm. Well, so a couple thoughts actually. So you bring up some good points. So regarding the algorithm, none of us know. Even the people that we're managing, we have people that have, combined, like one of our clients has combined over 7 million on Instagram/Facebook. He's a hip hop artist out of Chicago, big name guy, and like we can't tell what the hell's happening. It's just all the
Well,
numbers are
even
going.
when even
All
when
the
you
numbers are
think
going down.
you think or you figured it out, and then they
Mhm.
change it, right?
Yeah. One
Yeah.
thing I will say though, and so I was on a podcast last night called The Construction Life. It's these two filmmakers, a guy that was on Homes on Homes and a guy that was a feature filmmaker, and they both went into renovation space, so they've got a wild podcast. But anyway, what we were talking about is the guy was kind of starting from back to zero. I got to relaunch my own Instagram because it was as he was working under a brand before, and now it's just him. And his thing is, well, I don't know who's coming. I don't know if it's driving new business. And my thing to him is that, look, most of the time, if someone refers, they say, hey, go talk to Glenn. He's the guy for this thing. And they Google you because they don't know what your website is. My argument to him is, if someone's looking for you, or maybe you rank for a couple of keywords, what usually shows up ahead of your website is your Instagram and your Facebook and your LinkedIn profile. Like those usually show up on Google ahead of your actual website. So I'm saying to him, you have to keep some level of consistency, because Instagram might be someone's first touch point to you. And if your last post was in 2016, they think you're dead. So
Right.
I'm not making the argument that you have to be on every platform. What I'm saying is, whatever you're on, stay on and have some level of consistency, even if it's just a couple of posts a week, so that when people, like Facebook pages rank way higher for the most part than people's websites. And if you look up people by name, you'll see that like most of the time it's like Facebook, Yelp, LinkedIn, then them. It's like, oh, he's really down there. Like the websites are trying to compete with Facebook that has God knows how much traffic every day. And so I think just making sure that your presence is stable there, not necessarily worrying about it being growth. I don't need a bunch of followers, but if somebody stumbles upon me or discovers me, I want to make sure that I look legit and I look like a credible business. If you're not putting a ton of time into it, that's, sometimes that's just the strategy. Just make sure there's a couple posts, make sure I'm, I'm informing people, or I'm inspiring them, or I'm making them laugh, or whatever the case may be, and just be consistent with that content so that your persona online is consistent. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree because I was also, I suppose, in that time frame when, business wise, I said you have to have a website,
Yeah.
right? So I remember making the investment and having gone through that. And then even too, so I've got the website there, but it's also then having that piece that's driving traffic to my website because
Mhm.
even between that and the CRM and all this stuff where it's like, yeah, like in theory, so people could book online, to appointment, but most people are still cooking probably either via social media or just good old phone call or email and say, hey, can I book you at this time? So
Mhm.
it's kind of that weird transition of even going from, as I said, our traditional methods that we use for booking appointments to now like the tech online, even payment online.
Mm.
A lot of my clients don't use it, so I just am kind of in that mid stance.
Yeah. Yeah, which is okay. I mean, it's funny. A lot of the technologies, there's a technology for everything, but there's not a good technology for everything yet. So even like for example, MindBody, which is like that's used to facilitate like fitness facilities, like their software sucks. I mean, it does everything, but like visually and like customization wise, it's built on like a really old ass system, and like it was a nightmare. Like especially if you're putting it on your website, so you're trying to track using Google Analytics or Facebook Analytics what's happening and where am I losing people. Well, as soon as you go into the what is it, whatever it's called, um mind something, I don't know. I think you've probably heard the name before of that software, but it just goes
I
into a
have heard of that.
yeah, it just goes into a suck hole, and then you lose, like, you don't have any data after. You're like, what's the point of that? So there's just a lot of crappy. A lot of it's just early. And there's a whole bunch of people making these small little platforms, and nothing that's been great at like really taking over an industry. So
Yeah, I mean it's tough to really try to. I mean, there's a dozen companies out there now offering kind of CRMs, which I do think is phenomenal for the solopreneur and person like myself, and just trying to find the right one, I guess, that suits your business.
mhm,
Because some too are, maybe say $100 or $150 a month, versus I've heard of some that are like over $600 a month.
mhm,
And say if you're even looking for an email marketing system, sometimes that's like a separate platform versus you might find the CRM if you're lucky that kind of does a bit of both. So
mhm.
at least the beauty there is that it tracks your sales, it tracks your reports or any marketing efforts that you're doing. But yeah, they all kind of offer something a bit different. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just trying to find the right one that works for you.
For sure. And I think, I think investing in software, we pay for a lot of software, and we even buy stuff just to demo it, just to see what it's all about. I think it's really important. I think if you think about the opportunity cost of you getting an email or it's coming in and then you just forget to respond to them because you're busy, whereas the CRM could have taken care of it in a more effective way and you wouldn't have lost that. Like there's so much opportunity missed trying to keep up with responding to emails and stuff. So I like them for that. I think they're worth the amount of money they are for that. But even us as a marketing agency, like we end up using 3 different platforms to patch together what we actually need. It's a really big pain in the ass. So
But you're able to make it work somehow, right?
we make it work. Well, we're all tech nerds, so it makes it easy for us. So I do want to touch on that SEO thing because SEO is it's a weird animal. So I think there's a couple things that as a customer of an SEO company that you should ask or keep in mind to be able to validate if their work is going well. So what I mean by that is you're saying, well, hopefully it's going well. It's supposed to be something in the top 10, but it feels like you're just like, I just hope that they're doing a good job, pretty much.
Well, yeah, it sounds like a blanket statement. So I know for sure, like where I rent space in Brampton, there's a couple spaces, but the one in particular, so it's supposed to be within a 2 kilometer radius, and it is actually an industrial area. So what kind of, I guess, kind of makes me think on that, now that we're kind of bringing that up, is yeah, like how many of those businesses then are actually then looking for services that I offer, because it might be just a completely different business. If it's more industrial, it could be like, for example, like sheet metal, or it could be plastics, or it could be
Mhm.
any of those things where it's like it's kind of the industrial section kind of around the 410, where there just may not be a lot of businesses looking for the services that I offer.
Yeah,
I mean, on the flip side, I mean, I could definitely say people who have never had stretch therapy done have no idea what they're missing, just because of how good it can literally be for your whole body. Like it'll save
right.
people's life when they talk about aches and pains and all that stuff. But yeah, they mentioned to me that they should be sending reports either say monthly, and then sometimes it's like I don't see an email, so it's like you do the trial, and then it was a matter of, okay, so how do I know, again, too, as you say, if this worked or if it didn't work? And they say,
Yeah.
well, according to our rating, it's like now they show you and say, oh, so you are scored there, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, so that's what you're showing me on my analytic, but do I actually still know that? I guess so. Based on that SEO, how many phone calls, I guess, or how many new appointments have I got booked? And
Yeah.
that's, I guess, the only other real way I have of knowing,
Yep.
is my message or is my link getting out there, because the stats supposedly are there, but then the phone calls may not be equating to you know
Yep.
what they project.
So there's a couple ways to combat this, and so marketing is kind of a pain in the ass because it can present itself as very technical, and there are a lot of super technical elements to executing it. There's no question about that. Um, but there's a lot of shitty marketing agencies, just like there's a bunch of shitty personal trainers and renovators, and you know what I
Yep.
mean. Like there's always people that suck at their job. So here's what I would tell you that you need to tell your SEO company in order to help validate if it's working. So, and I'll send you the podcast if you're not writing down. But so there's a product called Google Tag Manager. And what it does is it sits over top of your website. It's a free Google product. It's part of like their analytics. And so right now, if you go to your website, someone could click on the phone link and they could call you, or they could click on your email address and email you, or they could fill out a form. I'm assuming those are the main calls to action on your site. So what Google Tag Manager will do is it will record how many of those actions happen in a given period. And
Okay.
on top of that, it will also, you'll be able to see through your Google Analytics, where did those come from? So what I mean by that is, so there's basically 5 different sources in Google Analytics. One is called direct. So that's someone that typed in your URL and came to your website. There's organic, which is somebody searched on Google or Yahoo or Bing somewhere, and then they found you and came to you. Then there's social. So if someone came in from Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. There's paid, which are like Google ads. And there's referral. So like you were listed on somebody else's website or in some email blast, and there was a link back to you and someone clicked it. So those are the 5 ways that people can come to your website. So what I'd be curious, and what you should
Okay.
know as the person paying for the service, is from the organic search, how many we'll call them conversions for simplicity, and that conversion can be somebody clicked on my phone number and called me, somebody clicked on my email and sent me an email, somebody clicked on or filled out a form and completed that form. So those are the 3 things. And so if you're not getting those triggers through organic, then it doesn't matter where you're ranked. Who cares if I'm in the middle of the first, like if it's not actually helping, or if it's not the right keywords, if it's not the right audience, then right, ranking is only ranking if it's ranking for the right thing to the right people. So that's what I would do. I'd have them do is make them add on Tag Manager and set up events for those 3 things, and then your analytics will be able to tell you, hey, so maybe you got 3 emails last month, right, for your website. Then you'll be able to see, oh, 1 email came in from social, so someone was probably on my Facebook. You can actually tell what platform it comes from. 1 form came from
Hmm.
direct, so somebody knew the URL and came right to my website, and then 1 came from organic. And so you could say, okay, I can attribute that to the organic work that they're doing. But at least you can have a sense of how many potential leads / conversions, we'll call them, what that actually looks like. And is that improving? Is it going up? Is the traffic on your website going up? The rank is one thing, but is like, to rank under a keyword that's not potential customer doesn't help. So is it ranking in the right stuff? Is that driving traffic? And is that traffic reaching out to you? Those are the pieces. And in theory, if your position is moving up on Google and it is for a keyword that's relevant, someone is actually looking for stretch therapy near me or whatever, then what happens at the back end? Are they actually getting in touch with you? So that's a really simple platform, Google Tag Manager, to be able to give that as a crystal clear, is this giving me a result or not?
Yeah, that's a super good tip. Okay. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the things, we talk to a lot of small business solopreneur, even the crazy thing is even mid-sized companies, people with 20 to 50, 100 employees. We do consulting with them, and oftentimes we just pay this agency, whatever, 5K or 10K, whatever a month. And I'm like, okay, but like, how many leads? What's the return? How many knew this, knew that? Well, I don't know. What? Like, that's crazy to not know. And I think what happens is a lot of agencies, so shitty agencies will just be like, oh, that tag manager thing, it's not that accurate, it won't work that great. And then you'll be like, okay, you're just trying to hide the fact that you suck. So anybody that won't give you that data, it's a problem. And and I'm not saying that whoever's doing your work is bad. It's just you should have, and you should request from them those simple metrics, so at least you can have a handle on it. Is this approximately working? Do I get a sense that it's going?
Well, so that's a red flag then for you, yeah?
Oh my God, yeah.
Well, no, because as you said though too, right? 20 pairs of hands when you're doing your business, you're looking at the difference between, do you schedule your clients? You're actually servicing your clients when you see them business-wise. You're setting up your courses and material from there. As I said, then the otherwise, half of my day could easily be spent just even say responding to email or text messages, so that are coming through. Someone needs to change or cancel an appointment. Then you've got, just like whether you set up your schedule week by week or month by month, hopefully that it's kind of something that helps reduce the timing. So you do have chance. I don't rarely have the chance to check analytics and say, how did I do this month? If it's just a difference of looking at my bank account versus saying, okay, is money going in or is money going out?
Right. Yeah, but it's and especially digital's weird and it's hard to know. But have you ever actually, on the topic of like keeping your calendar in line and scheduling and stuff, have you ever thought about or you heard about virtual assistants? Have you ever heard about that?
Yes, I have. I mean, I'm interested to kind of know more about it, only because I know that some websites, like I guess is that kind of like the difference of the companies that have a little chat box in the corner. So it's like they say chat to a live person now, which could either be a live person or I suppose could be like a chat bot. They kind of call it like one of those kind of systems. Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm actually thinking about like a personal assistant that works from a different remote location and helps manage different pieces of the puzzle. So there's actually a podcast. The podcast is called Brand You, Brand YOU, and
Hmm.
the guy who runs it is a guy called Mike Kim, and he helps entrepreneurs with copywriting, sales pages, and helping them craft website content, this and this and that. And he actually is a
Oh, okay.
solopreneur, no full-time staff, no team. But what he does use is a virtual assistant. He uses them a certain amount of time each week and pays them X amount per hour. And it's quite a bit, it'll be generally going to be quite a bit less because it's usually someone that can work from home and da 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 da. But he actually interviews his virtual assistant on his podcast. It was one of the last like 3 or 4 podcasts that he put out, and it was very interesting about how do you hire and tell them what to do, and how do you actually organize it in a way that you're going to get the best benefit out of it. But for me, I've got a full team that so I've never actually done it, but I know a lot of people that do, and you might need them 10 hours a week. And so 2 hours in a day, they'll pop in, respond to emails, respond to scheduling changes, do this, do that, but just like little tasks. It doesn't necessarily need to be you. But you can get people for a couple hours here and there. That can be like really helpful in organizing and moving tasks forward in your business. So I'd listen to that podcast as like a entry level to like what exactly it is or what it's capable of. But it's interesting for a lot of people that are just solo that can't bring on a full-time person. Um, it, yeah, it's a really interesting concept.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that. I know that if I was left to deal with my own calendar and answer my own emails, the business would have folded already. So,
Well, I know too, as I said, the difference between, I guess, a virtual assistant too. I'm trying to think about like how that would work only because then if they're responding kind of on my behalf, does it affect, I guess, the personal connection that you have with clients, or again, too, I guess if it just means you're busy enough that you just need a couple extra pair of hands just in terms of working on some of the back end things to your business, I can
yeah.
definitely see how that would be, a bit of a game changer because then you just have your workload at least, many hands make light work, as they
Mhm.
say.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the problem that a lot of businesses have is like, okay, if I were to even pay someone minimum wage at part time, like, it's an extra 1,000 or 1,500 a month, and you just might not have enough stuff for that person to do. And so, the people that do have it where they take over the emails in your email like signature, it'll say like, this is either me or this person, just so you know, like there's multiple people answering this box. So if you get a response,
Right.
like it could be from somebody, and you might say, hey, anything that's directly from a client, don't respond to, but anything that's from CanFit that's to do with scheduling, like, hey, yeah, you can get in touch with them and help book my time that way, but not do other things. And I mean, you can structure it any way you want. And if you have a lot of stuff, I would focus on it from like, what do I suck at, or what is like, there's always tasks, and I learned this very early in my business. It's like there were things that when I went to do them, my stomach was just like, oh, I'm so like, just your stomach crunches up and you're like, I'm just dreading everything to do with what's happening right now. And like those tasks, those are the first things out the door. I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not dealing with a calendar anymore. I'm not invoicing anymore. I'm just like, no, 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 no. And that was my
Usually
use
it's, I
case.
guess, if it's something I fear, then I tend to procrastinate a little bit and just kind of say, oh,
Mhm.
I'll worry about that next week, or I'll worry
Yeah,
about that the week after. And
yeah,
then I get to a point where it's like I say to myself, yeah, I really need to figure that out.
right. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of saying to themselves, "Oh, well, you have to get past it and get better and da 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 da." But why? Why do I have to be like, why would I take myself from being really shitty and having anxiety around this thing to being mediocre and still having anxiety if someone else will do it? Just goodbye. I'm not doing it anymore. So,
It could be the same thing as people who are afraid to come on camera and do a podcast, right? Or I don't, or social media posting too. That's a big one. I took a
yep.
mentorship program even, last year that was even just, getting comfortable in front of the camera. And I
Mhm.
might say, well, luckily enough for me, I went to theater school. That was my first career, was a career in theater. So performance stage and stuff, that kind of is second nature to me. It's not that bad. So I
Yeah.
understand it's still daunting to kind of be on video and say, oh, the whole world is watching you. You're on national television or whatever.
Mm.
But yeah, just to kind of, anyway, it makes it easier having, I guess, taken that fear away. So you're
Mhm.
not really afraid to jump forward.
Yeah. Well, and even on the topic of social, like the virtual assistant could be someone that you say, "Hey, here's all of the content for the next period of time. Can you put it into my scheduling software?" And then, write the captions, or like, or just give them a framework that they can go execute, that you can just go back and, make sure it sounds like you and make sure it's all good. But just those things where like it probably takes what I would say probably to schedule for a month worth of content, it probably takes about 4 to 6 hours if you're doing 3 to 5 posts a week.
Right.
And even so, my biggest thing is like, even if they're only 70% quality compared to you, as long as you put final eyes on it, it doesn't matter, right? So it's like, if you out of the 6 hours it would take you, if you let them do it, and then it takes you 1 hour to go in and fix the mistakes, still save 5 hours. And
Yeah, a
so,
little time saver for
yeah,
sure.
so those kind of little things, like anything that you find is like a big pain point, I like to move on to other people. And we use a lot of different freelancers that aren't full-time people with us for different projects like that. And you can get like students especially that are like thrilled at like, 14-15 bucks an hour to like do little piecemeal things. So I find it to be very effective when I don't have any time to deal with most things, so that's like a really great. But yeah, anyway, just a thought.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I think we covered some things. I think tapping into that, getting that information from your SEO guys, I think even just have the peace of mind of like, do I have something that I can look at every month that benchmarks performance that I trust the number of, right? If I'm showing you something where you're like, oh, it's some report that says this and that, like, if that doesn't mean anything to you, then you're always going to have reluctance about putting money in. And so they might be doing an amazing job and you're just not understanding how amazing. You might, if you know what I mean, if you were to have a result that you understood, you might say, oh, we got to double the budget. This is bringing in all kinds of stuff, or it's doing nothing. I got to get rid of it. But making sure you have those metrics to look at, something that you understand the end point of, is really important with digital marketing, or else you always have this feeling of like, I'm spending money on digital marketing. Like, no, digital marketing should be making 2 to 5 times return on your investment always. And so you got to making sure you have a comprehension of what those kind of key indicators are to make sure you're comfortable, and then it helps you invest and grow if and when that time comes, because digital ad spend, whether it be Google or Facebook or SEO, like, is the cheapest by comparison to anything. I mean, your word of mouth customers are always your best, but like, if you were to try and do a radio ad or a billboard or this, or like, nothing's like, it's a fraction of the price digital. And so if you've got something that works really well, like, ramp it up. But get an understanding first, and then at least you can feel one way or another about it.
No, for sure. As I said, I'm sure there's a couple things that even say myself that I haven't quite tapped into yet, or yeah, things that I could definitely be doing differently. And it's just a matter of then kind of find out again too. When you say like the biggest thing of like your return on your investment, for sure, is that there's so many choices out there now for entrepreneurs and people trying to build business, of like just making sure that what you choose is like the right step. Because I've even kind of done it, I suppose, in the past where I've invested money in stuff that just didn't work. And then you kind of, it's like, well, it's a learning lesson, and you kind of move on from that, or have a chance to try and decide of like what's going to be the best decision for your business to take you forward.
Yep. Yeah, but I think it's all about tasting and testing, and as long as you take those learnings and don't screw it up again, it's usually a good spot. I mean, we're probably I make 5-figure mistakes throughout a year, every year, because I just want to know, hey, maybe this will be great. Maybe we should try this. I've tried stuff that I like didn't think was going to work at all, but I was like, maybe it'll surprise us. I'm like, nope, I was right. Good. Let's move away from that. So you got to taste, you got to test, but the one thing is like understanding the feedback from it, so that if you do find something that's good, you can go like all in on that thing. Like right now we're running a Facebook ad that's coming, like, download this PDF document that we made, and it's a really great document. And we started running Facebook ads to people to say, hey, if you want this document, give us your email, we'll send it to you for free. And like, we started, I think we were paying like over $5 for the first 2 weeks per email we got. And I was like, oh, this is not going to work. But we tweaked and we tested because we knew it was a good concept. And now we have it down under like 60 cents. And a chunk of those people are going to become customers of ours. And so that turns into a good investment, but kind of reverse engineering the numbers and saying, I need 15 people on my website to get 1 inquiry, and I need 3 inquiries to get a piece of business, right? If you understand that metric, then you can say, okay, I'm willing to pay X amount to get those 15 people to my website, and making sure that the service that's being offered is doing it within that cost for you. But it's all baby steps, man. There's always so many. I've got I have a notepad with about 75 things I want to work on for my business. It's like you get to it when you get to it. We just do our best, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it was great. It was great speaking with you. Tell us where we can find you on from web and from social and all those platforms. I'll link it in the show notes as well, but let people know where they can find you.
Oh, sure. Well, so Bodymechanix.ca, but spelled BODYMECHANIX.ca, is a kind of website. I suppose then too, either Glen Burgess or Body Mechanix could be found on LinkedIn, Facebook. My Instagram is Glen_Mechanix. So people probably kind of find me that way. I'm wearing a red shirt. And it's typically kind of then where I have most of my stuff again too. As I said, social. I'd say 90% business, You might see some personal stuff there in terms of like, some theater captions or whatnot from projects I'm working on. And a lot of people, my friends will say, oh, why don't you like, post, just more personal stuff. And the difference though too is I don't typically post the coffee I have in the morning or you know, I just kind of focus on other things that are at least then more driven to business brand.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's kind of funny there.
with entrepreneurs, it's like your business is your life anyway. So I am pretty much just posting my life.
Kind of, yeah. As like just this is what I do.
Yeah. And honestly,
Yeah, that's I guess where you can find me there.
trying to have multiple Instagram channels, like one just for your friends and then one for, it's a nightmare. Just do business.
As I said, I post some fun stuff now and then because it's that I'm not usually that boring. But
Yeah. Well, it is good to showcase your personality, right? People want to they're going to connect with you in person anyway, so giving them a little bit about what they're going to get in person is, I think, is a good use of time.
it's very true. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate the invite, and hopefully, I said this it's helping your viewers or readers or
I,
listeners.
absolutely. I always find it helps somebody of like, and it could just be something that you mentioned, I mentioned. I never know it. I just kind of put it out into the world and see what people think. So, but I'm sure it will help somebody anyway.
Very cool.
All right, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.